we're moving on. Something that is actually happened. It has happened right now, and this is very certain. Sean Payton, coach of the New Orleans Saints. Well, he was the coach of the New Orleans Saints, and let's get our phrasing right here. He has decided to step away from football for the time being. It's a very Calvin Ridley-esque approach. He is stepping away from football. This was kind of shocking to me because we actually had a different Sean Payton story planned for this week. Kind of threw us for a loop. What are your thoughts on this?
So, anytime you get high enough in any profession, when you become a manager, a high-ranking member, especially like look at a company like a CEO, one thing they always have to do is watch what they say in specific wording. I've had a few times to sit and talk with some of the managers of the company I work for, some of the higher guys, just in happenstance, and they always talk about how careful they are in the words they choose and how it really matters because you don't want to be, first of all, legal things. You don't want to be misconstrued. You got to send the right message in case you decide to pivot or go a different direction in the future. And I think you hit the nail right on the head here with the wording Sean Payton used, the fact that he is stepping away from being the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. He is not retiring. And I think you've got some news stories out there, but I definitely do not think we've seen the last of Sean Payton as a head coach in the NFL.
No, and I have a tweet from Jeff Howe. He says Sean Payton isn't necessarily retiring, according to an inside source on the Saints. It says he needs time away to recharge his batteries. He's been the Saints coach for the last 16 seasons. I mean, he's 58 years old. That's understandable. But he could potentially return to coaching down the line, and there have been numerous occasions where other teams have inquired about Payton, even when he was still with the Saints. So, I mean, obviously, if he were to come back, he'd probably be candidate numero uno on the list for many teams, just of how great of a career he has had in New Orleans. But with Payton's departure from New Orleans, there's a lot of questions that are left unanswered with the organization. Do we want to get into any of those, or do you have anything else on Payton that you wanted to speak about?
Yeah, let's dive into the situation that he left New Orleans in now that Payton's gone.
So now that Payton is gone, let's take a global perspective of the New Orleans Saints football team. You don't have a starting quarterback. Okay, you have Jameis Winston, who's a big if. He's coming back from injury. You have Taysom Hill, who I would go out on a limb here and say he's probably not your answer at quarterback. He could be the answer in some other positions on the field. He's not your quarterback. You have Trevor Siemian, who probably isn't the long-term answer at quarterback. He's a stopgap, if that, maybe a good backup quarterback to have. So you have three guys that two of them have like deals that you don't want to deal with, perhaps. And let's get into that part. They are so heavy in debt in the cap department over the next few seasons that it's so undesirable to move on to New Orleans. I couldn't see any coach wanting. You got Michael Thomas, who was out all last season. And to me, he's kind of like baggage on this team now. He's been forgotten, kind of. People aren't thinking about him anymore. He's been gone for so long. What are your thoughts on this New Orleans team? Would any coach in their right mind want to come coach here?
Yeah, so probably not. You hit on a couple of reasons why. Sean Payton really bet big on Taysom Hill being the next Steve Young or Jameis Winston turning his career around. Through injury and some poor performance, Winston doesn't look like he was going to do that. Taysom Hill is not the next Steve Young. Credit to Hill being a versatile player that he is, making the plays that he can. He's basically Tim Tebow, and that's not a long-term recipe for success. But I think you hit the nail on the head right with that salary cap number. The Saints right now are $74 million over the cap heading into next season. That is just a terrible situation to be in, but it gets even worse than that. Sometimes teams find themselves in those cap situations, and really they just have a veteran who's past his prime, a couple of those guys who they can cut, save a lot of money, and move on. That's not the case at all. When you mentioned Michael Thomas. If they cut Michael Thomas, they save a grand total of $2 million. If you look at Cameron Jordan, defensive lineman, great player, even though he's getting older, they cut him, $2 million savings. If they cut Taysom Hill, They owe money. There's dead money, $6 million, not in cap savings. They don't save any money by cutting it. So they're not in a situation where they can even move on to the future. They basically have to shelve their entire roster just to make this money up because they can't just cut 2 or 3 veteran guys. They paid everybody way too much money. They went all in a few years ago when they had Drew Brees, and they didn't win the championship. And now they have to pay the bill. Now they have to pay the debt. And on top of it all, because they actually won 9 games thanks to Sean Payton's great coaching, they don't even have a great draft pick. It's not like they have number 1 overall pick and they can go out and kind of revamp their roster. They're in the middle part of the first round. So they're not even going to get a top 5, top 10 caliber guy. This is a terrible situation for a head coach to walk into. I don't know any coach that would really want to take this job.
Listen, Nick, it's easy if you're the New Orleans Saints because all you got to do is dial the clock back 16 years ago and hire the best coach you've ever had in franchise history that year while simultaneously trading for one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history in Drew Brees. If you can do that this offseason, it'll be so easy to do. And I know that that's something that any team could do if they really wanted to. So I don't foresee this as an issue for the Saints. They just got to go hire a Hall of Fame quarterback and a Hall of Fame coach in the same offseason.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit harder than you make it out to be. But